Welcome to Follow the Action. It's the fastest growing podcast in the history of the freaking planet. We have been downloaded in over 1,800 different cities in over 60 countries. We're the best damn show on God's green earth. And when Elon Musk gets us to Mars, they open up a sports book. We're going to be the best damn show on the red planet to boot. Why? Because we've got a panel of the very best in the world. Don't forget, UFC prelims. 1 hour before. We do a UFC show every single week. You can find us on YouTube at our Follow the Action. You can find us on Twitch, Follow the Action. You can also go live on Facebook at, guess what? Follow the Action. Our man Joey Odessa has been killing it with the Philly Godfather and the college kids. So let's get straight to our panel. Fighting out of the beautiful brotherly love city of Philadelphia. He is the greatest sports bettor on the planet. 64.8% last year in the NFL alone. Try finding somebody that can compare to those numbers. It doesn't happen. He is Mr. Steve Maltepes, the Philly Godfather. Philly Godfather, how you doing?
Feeling great after that Philadelphia Eagles victory Sunday night. We had a plus 335 money line. We had a plus the points. We took the under in the first half. We pushed the over in the second half. We've won 7 straight NFL wagers. Things are starting to look good, John.
7 straight NFL wagers plus. I got it at plus 320. You guys got, I think, at plus 335 or something like that, which picks up a quick 3 positions. Absolutely killing it. And from what I understand, you have an upgraded 2% move that's we're going to bring up later in the show, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We got 2 games to give out. And the best part of that Eagles victory was the text I got from Coach telling me he loved the 49ers. That sealed the deal for him.
Once Coach likes a football team or a MMA guy, we bet the other side. Coach knows his golf. Otherwise, we fade the coach.
Well, I don't mind fading the coach, but we know he's lying. Because I would never. If I'm going to do anything, I'm going to call him. I'm never going to text his ass.
I was fibbing a little bit. Coach liked the Eagles, too. I was just, horsing around.
I know you and the Philly Godfather have got a few problems, Coach. Your Philly Godfather ended up having to block you. You unfollowed him on the official Follow the Action Twitter, which I don't want to bring up that bad stuff, but I just did.
Of course you did. And it's all right because I have not moved forward from last week, but I'm a pro. And I've always been a pro's pro. So I'm going to show up and I'm going to do my job. Hopefully better than I did last week.
And we have a beef negotiator on the show today, JBL. Gary is squashing the beef between me and Coach.
Yeah, we got to get there.
Cotbaum's going to come in later to squash that beef. He's here with us now. But first, Coach, you had a rough week last week, but you 100% transparency here. You're 16-9 overall in the past month and a half on the PGA. That's a 64%. Absolutely killing it, my man. 2 words. Coach rules.
Coach
rules. And we're not making any excuses. I've learned from the Philly Godfather, Joey, all the animals that you're going to have bad weeks. It happens, but you just got to bounce back. And what does the Godfather always say? It's always about what you do next.
I wasn't having a bad week until I found out what Joey Odessa, Joey Bagel Time was wearing. Joey Odessa, you're 38-15 the last 6 weeks on the UFC. You're absolutely killing it, but that shirt is absolutely killing me. I really don't care how you're doing, but I'm going to ask you anyway. No, I'm not. How you doing?
I'm doing good, JBL. I got a champion mentality, champion gear on. Never give up. Coming out of a 2-1 week last week with Howie Holm laid an egg, or Howie Holm against Aldana. Aldana laid an egg, but Holm looked as good as she'd ever did. Man, she's going up for the Boxing Hall of Fame. I mean, she did it, man. She went out there and she won every round with a 10-8. But we're on to this week. No rear view mirrors.
She looked good. Right. She looked good even wrestling. It was surprising. She obviously has been working on her MMA skills.
Takedown. Speaking of mirrors, Joey, have you looked in the mirror lately? You just brought up a mirror. You say mirror?
What did you say? You say something about surprise, JBL? Are you surprised? I'm surprised they make a 6X for that T-shirt. I'm just kidding.
When did Coach come back?
I can't talk. Look at this neck. I got like a 21-inch neck. I'm like 5'9" with a 21-inch neck. I can't talk.
Oh, Jesus.
If Joy wore a turtleneck, you'd smother.
All right, you guys could take shots at my weight. You're with Paul Felder and the rest of the guys. All right.
You're the one that started with that stupid John Cena shirt the guy lost the championship to.
I'm inspired. He inspires me. Never give up. I'm not giving up.
Well, that's what De La Hoya said when he lost his luggage and you picked it up.
Yeah, true.
Let's go to another person who is wearing the Nature Boy, Ric Flair, because he is a legend in his own right. He is the host of the Investor's Edge, also author of the book of the same name, The Investor Edge. He's going to join us later. We're going to talk about this crazy market. He is a good friend of mine, Gary Kaltbaum. Gary, how are you today?
Well, after the Giants week, not good. Eddie Van Halen passing away, not good. Very depressed on that, but it's Wednesday. It's early in the week. We're looking forward to the rest.
We're going to fire all week. He is the prognosticator. He is the man with the future right there in his hands. He is the 8-ball. 8-ball, how are you?
Feeling good, man. Coming off a 10-1 Sunday. Ready to do it again this weekend.
I'm going to get right to you and this gentleman next here in just a second to start off the show. And he is being called the future of sports betting. He is one half of the college kids. He is Matt. Matt, how are you today?
Doing great. We got an NFL move that we really love that we can't wait to get to.
Well, let's get right to it because later in the show, we've got the Philly Godfather with a 2% upgraded move that we're going to bring out. So, Matt, you start off. You mentioned the Falcons. They are absolutely abysmal right now. What do you got on us with the Falcons?
They might have been losing as of late 0-4, but this offense is going to look great this upcoming weekend, and so is Carolina's. These teams are going to look like maybe the greatest show on turf. These offenses are going to explode. They're going to have big plays going left and right. When we're looking at the Falcons' schedule, in the 4 games they versed, versus Seattle, they put up 25 points. They went to Dallas, put up 40 points, and then they versed Chicago, who's actually ranked 7th in defensive efficiency, and they still put up 26 on them. Then they had a down week when they went to Green Bay at Lambeau, and they only put up 16. But we're looking at Carolina now, and we're looking at where they're ranked defensively. They're ranked 28th. We're looking at all the defenses that the Falcons verse, and they're all ranked higher than the Falcons' defense, which is ranked 28th, which is 4th worst in the NFL. So now on the flip side, we're looking at the Carolina schedule. They versed Las Vegas. They put up 30 points on them. They versed Tampa Bay, which is actually ranked 2nd best defense in terms of efficiency in the NFL. And they put up only 17 on them. And then they go to LA, the Chargers, and they drove down so many times, but they settled for so many field goals in that game. They only scored 21, but that's because the Chargers have the 3rd best red zone defense in the NFL. Then they went and versed Arizona. They put up 31 on them. And when we look at all the defensive efficiency numbers and everything, the only team worse than Atlanta Falcons that they've played so far is Las Vegas, and they put up 30 on them. So we're going to expect a high-scoring game here. I love the over 54. When we go to red zone defense, Atlanta in a opposing red zone TD scoring percentage, they rank 29th. And we're looking at Carolina, they rank 27th. They don't show far behind. These are one of the worst defenses in the league. And now we're looking at yards per play, and the Carolina Panthers actually rank 8th, and they average 6 yards per play. Meanwhile, the Atlanta Falcons opposing yards per play rank is 30th. So these teams and these offenses are going to have a great week, and they're going to explode. Take the over 54.
Thank goodness that the Falcons, their special team coach, never went over onside kicks. Otherwise, my Cowboys would be 0-4.
I don't know what they're doing with
play I've seen this year.
They got to get rid of that head coach as well.
Yeah,
I mean, the Cowboys are so bad they can't cover the spread. They're 0-4 in the market. The only other team that's 0-4 against the spread this year are the Houston Texans. So 2 bad teams from Texas, JBL.
Hey, listen, Gary Kaltbaum and I have had enough pain already, okay? Texas doesn't have a pro football team, and neither does New York. And not New York City. The Bills are pretty good.
I'll tell you what, watching Atlanta, it's like you can give 21 points in the last 4 minutes of the game with their after what I've watched with them.
You know what's crazy about that team, Gary? They're the first team, I think, in NFL history that gave up 2 15-point leads in the 4th quarter.
I'm still trying to figure out that onside kick. What do they do during training camp on an onside kick like that? Oh, let's leave the ball alone and then jump on it.
They don't want to touch it.
Gary, if they weren't so inept, though, my Cowboys would be 0-4. You know,
That's true.
Compared to Steve's Eagles, who are leading the division at 1-2-1 right now.
First place, baby.
Go Philadelphia, baby.
Fly, Eagles, fly. Well, 8-Ball, I understand one of the teams that Dallas has in trouble with, the Cleveland Browns, Mr. Baker Mayfield, who's been a thorn in Texas flesh for a long time, especially when he was up in Oklahoma with those dadgum Sooners. I understand you've got something with the Cleveland Browns for us. What do you got?
Yeah, we're taking the Cleveland Browns +2 at home against the Colts this weekend. On paper, this Colts defense, it looks like a juggernaut. They rank number 1 in opponent yards per play. When you take a closer look at their schedule, they play teams like offenses like the Vikings, the Jets, the Bears, teams that can't really put up any points. And then they got lit up for 30 by the Jaguars. So I definitely think their defensive statistics are a little bit skewed. Right now, they're going against a team in the Browns that's averaging 39 points per game over the last 3 games. So they're hitting on all cylinders. They're not the same Browns. They finally have a head coach. Last year they had Freddie Kitchens. It was a mess. They're playing with a lot of confidence this year. I think the wrong team's favored in this game. I'm going with the Browns +2.
You like the Browns +2? You like the idea that Baker Mayfield and Odell Beckham are going to be the real deal in jail here. And of course, Kareem Hunt have playing incredibly well.
Yep.
When you, by the way, can I ask, when you see a game like that where you see a line where I believe Indy's giving the points, but you at first blush you would think Cleveland would be given the points. How do you play into that? Do you just go with what you think?
You just look into the game, see why the line is what it is, and just go from there.
You're basically just pulling off layers, Gary. You look at the numbers, you look at the opponent's strengths, you're looking at the matchups on the field. I mean, if there's any injuries or any guys coming back, you're looking at import or export, production numbers. But at the end of the day, you got to try and find, some clarity on who these teams really are and who they've faced, because a lot of these numbers are skewed. And I always tell people skewed statistics are a sports bettor's best friend.
You got to find what's real, what's not.
And let me give you a good hint. T.Y. Hilton's on my fantasy league. Go under 0 catches and you'll still win.
Gary and I have learned a couple things being Cowboys and Giants fan. Unless we're playing somebody from the Southland Conference, not from the American Conference, the National Conference, the Southland Conference. Don't bet on our teams. And I want to get to Mr. Gary Kaltbaum. Gary's been a good friend of mine for a long time. Gary's the host of Investor's Edge, the radio show, also the author of the book, The Investor's Edge. He's got another book coming out. We met doing market stuff on television. We have a love of sports together. Gary also does a lot of work, some tremendous work with the Boys and Girls Clubs down in Florida. Gary, if you had gone to sleep somehow around 2018, 2019, and you see that this bull market that you went to sleep in, all of a sudden you wake up in 2020, you've got 11 million people unemployed, 22 million had lost their jobs, 11 million have gotten their jobs back, 11 million still unemployed. You see stats like up to half of the restaurants in New York City could go bankrupt. Up to half of the storefronts in San Francisco have closed. You would think that the market would be in the doldrums right now. But if you were told the market is an all-time high, I don't think you would believe that. The market, though, is at an all-time high. You're an expert in the markets. You're an expert in the Fed. First question, why is the market right now at an all-time high?
Okay, and it's a little bit, I don't know if this is above, but you have a central bank here that has printed $7.5 trillion. And it's just a number trillion, but it is just gargantuan. In Europe, they have printed $7.5 trillion. There's $15 trillion being flushed into the system, into the leveraged Wall Street, which just gets a kick out of it. At the same time, they have screwed savers with 0% interest rate. So they tell Aunt Mary and Uncle Bob that's trying to make a little bit of money off of their savings, go screw. And then they would tell Wall Street, we're going to take care of you. Believe it or not, Jay Powell, the central bank, is buying the bonds of Apple. Like Apple needs help with their bond buying. So what all that does is it just creates a lot of greed, a lot of leverage. And you know how Wall Street is. They will buy anything that's on the move, and it tends to feed on itself. My worry at the end of the road, it's not going to be good news, but I think we're in a sweet spot right now. I think we're going much higher, especially this quarter. And by the way, that's in spite of who wins the election in spite of the virus, in spite of my Giants going 0-16, in spite of anything. It's just the nature of fear and greed in the markets right now. And by the way, there is some rationality. The worst acting stocks are the cruise lines. Why? They're not in business. Airlines, hotels, casinos, energy stocks. These are the worst areas, and there's for a good reason. The best areas, and we discussed this the last time I was here, these great killer growth companies that I named for you, like Zoom, which has gone insanely to the upside since, and Tesla and things like that. These are companies that grow in their business just gargantuan type numbers. And I've always just say, if you want to own a company, what do you want to own? The one where there's a line around the block, or one where there's nobody there and just looking for some value? So I do believe there's rationality, but I also believe this is central bank. And if they weren't around, I think the Dow would probably be at 18,000 right now.
Gary, if you started investing, say, in 2010, you're a genius, because anybody in a bull market is a genius. So a lot of people have not seen like what we have seen, the 2009, the Great Recession, 2000, 2001, the internet bubble exploding, 1997, the Asian crisis, even back to 1987, when after that great bull market by Ronald Reagan, you see that incredible black day where Art Cashin famously says before the market opened, for those of us about to die, we salute you. And Reagan actually went to some investors and said, quit shorting the market. I will ruin your life if you don't. You don't need a great corner man until you get into trouble. It looks like now we have some perilous times ahead of us. We don't like to discuss politics, but unfortunately, politics are now part of the market. Where do you see the stimulus, and how do you plan that as far as your investing? Because I know it's hard to predict, but you have to predict it because you have nowhere else to really put your money.
Well, I tell people that we're the most news-driven environment I've ever been, times a bazillion. We have to factor in so many things that we never used to have to factor in. It used to be the Fed lower a quarter point here or there. Now we have to decide whether he's going to print $1 trillion or not. So you saw in the last 2 days, yesterday the president comes out, no more negotiations. The market takes a 500-point dump in an hour and a half. Then overnight he says, oops, I don't like the market going down. Let me lower that tone, and let me have some of my minions come out and talk about doing a deal and throw a nice tweet out, and the market's up 500. So all this has to be factored in, and it's a pain in the rear end. But for me, when all is said and done, we talk market, Dow, S&P, NASDAQ. I'm more interested in the fact that I own NVIDIA right now, a chip company that's growing their business 90% this year. And companies like that will cut through any issues, any news, any problems. You show me the company that doubles their business in the next year, I'm going to show you the big winner. So that's how I play things. But leave no doubt, market right now is factoring in so much crap on a daily basis. And we got the vice president thing tonight. We have 2 more debates. And then we get the election where right now Biden's winning big, and he wants to tax the crap out of people that are trying to become wealthy. And that's going to have an effect. But we got to just cross that bridge when we get there. And just, I say, close my eyes, hold my nose, and pray every day, and that we get it right.
We're taping this up on Wednesday night, and the reason that's important is because Wednesday afternoon, the airline stocks, which you mentioned, are all up about 5% on this perceived ability for the president and the Congress to get together on about a $25 billion bailout package for the airlines. My question to you is this. I want to ask you about some hot sectors, but first let's talk about some of these lagging sectors and what you would do if you would touch them at all. When you talk about so many restaurants in the city of New York that could go bankrupt, but if they get government stimulus, could make it through. Would you touch this at all as far as investing and trying to find one of these fallen stocks that are out there, like a restaurants or the cruise line or any of these companies?
Normally I'm looking for leaders, but at this point in time, one has to recognize that if the cruise lines just get back to 50%, the stocks are going to probably double from here. So I'm watching them closely every day. I need to see that the big money is buying them before, and I'd rather pay a little bit up and know that there's some conviction behind it before jumping in and then watch them head down. With the airlines, a little number for you. Yesterday, the amount of people going through TSA was 25% of last year on the same date yesterday. So they're still on their arses, as they say. It's still bad news out there. And, I just sit back, I watch them. I know if we ever get back to the norm, they're going to be much higher. I just don't know when that's going to be. You bring up airlines. I've been bearish on Boeing since the crashes. And I keep asking myself the question, who needs to buy jets going forward, in that there are, hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of planes being parked in the desert and in hangars right now that are not being used. And so many airlines are, shuffling off. They're saying, okay, we fly 3 times a day. They're only going to do 1 time a day. So I think Boeing's in the crosshairs too. I just be careful with them right now. I think they'll have their day in the sun. It's just not here yet.
Gary, when there's so much uncertainty going on right now, you got a presidential election coming up that adds uncertainty to it. You got a stimulus package between, you think? But you got a stimulus package that between 2 groups of kids, the Republicans and Democrats, that who knows what might happen. But what are you actually buying right now? What sectors are you buying? What specific companies? Where would you advise people put money right now in this market?
Well, I can tell you, I think the NASDAQ's about to make another run. And I think you'll probably get another move in Amazon's. I mentioned NVIDIA. I think less of a run, but I think it'll start on the move as Apple. My only big worry with like Apple, Google, and Facebook is the maniacs in Washington are taking out their machete and trying to cut them off at the knees now, saying they're bad players. But I just think technology is going to win the day. I think at home, Peloton, I've been told to short that stock since 30, and it keeps going higher. I think these companies are here to stay, and I think they're category killers. Netflix looks like it's going to make another run here. Also, Roku just signed a big deal. That's on the move. That's the space I'm in, and every one of these companies have one thing in common. Their sales growth is phenomenal. And as I said, you want to follow the money, as you say, follow the companies that are doubling and tripling and quadrupling the business. By the way, just so you know, Zoom, 2 quarters ago did 188 million in sales. Last quarter they did 320, and the quarter they're in 600 million. Wow. So you can see how, and that's why the stock's made such a move. And if you can figure out whether these things are here to stay, then there's probably a lot more to go. I remember I've studied Cisco. I don't remember when it came out, but I've studied it. And when Cisco first came out, and by the way, it's probably up 50,000-fold by now. The same thing was going on. They started with certain numbers, and just numbers went up exponentially because they were the routers, they were the networking, and they just blossomed and bloomed into everybody. The same with Windows and Microsoft. If you find these things that are just a necessity to your life and everybody else's life, not just yours, it has to be everybody else's. That is the place to be, and that's what I look for daily. Just if I see a plus 80 in that sales and earnings, I'm good to go as long as the stock's being treated well in the market. And there's a whole host of them right now.
Gary, you're a Giants fan, a Knicks fan, and a Mets fan. Are you mad at yourself?
Depression sets in on a daily basis.
I feel your pain, my brother. I like my Cowboys, my Rangers. I don't know what happened.
And let me just say, like your Cowboys should have won a couple of Super Bowls in the last 10 years with the talent they had. You just had whoever was running the show. And by the way, he now runs the offense for the Giants. So I think there's like a listen, you know sports. It's the most depressing thing on earth. And it's also the most fun on earth. When my Giants beat New England twice, I hold that in my mind these days as I watch them score nothing on a weekly basis. Wow.
Well, then let's get to depressing. Coach, just kidding, Coach. That was a coach. I'm joking. Coach, Gary, we do this weekend show, and Coach can't make it because his kid's playing softball, and Coach deserves to be Dad of the Year. I'm not being facetious.
Excellent.
Takes his kids out. He goes with them everywhere they go because they can't play in California, so he takes them on the road. So we talk about him during the prelim show and say so many good things about him. And Coach a lot of times gets to hear that. Coach, I know you're just beaming with pride, hearing me and Joy and the Philly Godfather and Matt all talk about you, right, Coach?
Well, first of all, I would never bring Matt into the conversation because he's never said one bad thing about me, at least not that I've heard of. It's always Godfather and Joey. I'll deal with it another time. And then you're the ringleader because it's always, oh, Fade the coach. I'm just kidding, coach, if you're listening. We're just kidding if you're listening. Well, tell you what, I'm not even going to let you ask me a question this week because you're just going to say Fade the coach anyway. And so here's what we're going to do. I'm going to give you quickly because what Gary said was so good. I'm going to make mine quick so we can get to the rest of the show. Thank you, Gary, for being here and being so entertaining. I'm not going to take up a lot of time. I got 3 picks this week. Three. It was my turn, right, Johnny? Is that what you were getting to?
Turn, coach.
All right. Everybody grab your papers and pencils. We're never going 1 and 3 again until the next time that we do.
You can't go.
All right, here we go.
You have 3 picks. That's impossible.
3 picks
That's automatically impossible. If you have 3 picks, you can't go 1 and 3.
Well, he went to school in Texas. Don't worry.
All right, you all know that I've said lay off of Bryson DeChambeau until he won the U.S. Open. Now I'm going to ride that horse all the way home, especially when I get a -131 against Webb Simpson. Let's take Bryson DeChambeau all the way. He's actually the only favorite this week, guys, that is in double or single digits. He's plus 750. Don't touch him as the winner because it's very, very difficult to do that. But that shows you what Vegas thinks of him in this tournament that he won in 2018, by the way, on this golf course. Kevin Na, he's your defending champion. He's had some back issues. I think he's going to be motivated to play in front of his family. He's in his hometown. He gets to sleep in his own bed. Take him -116 over Cameron Davis from Australia. And then our last one, sorry, Gary, I know you love Scotty Scheffler. I still think he's feeling the effects from COVID a few weeks ago. I really do. And so I'm going to take Matthew Wolff, who nearly won the U.S. Open. I will take him -108 is all they're giving because Scheffler was so good during the FedEx Cup playoffs. So I'm taking Matthew Wolff, Kevin Na, Bryson DeChambeau. A lot of big heavy hitters this week, guys. The last 2 major champions, Colin Morikawa, Bryson DeChambeau, both in the event this week. So it should be a lot of fun in Las Vegas.
Coach, are you going to Vegas or are you going with your kids' baseball team again this weekend?
I am going to Arizona to a baseball tournament with my son this weekend. So I will not be in Vegas. I'll be at a tournament in Arizona.
Our man, Coach. Thank you, Coach.
Coach
You got it.
Coach rules. Well, let's just go to somebody that is wearing a shirt that I highly don't approve of. But he's 38-15 in the last 6 weeks of the UFC. You know, I lost the championship to that man right there, WrestleMania 21, there, Joey Odessa, to John Cena. And I said afterwards had to retire. And now I'm the one that puts you over every single week and tells you how nice you are and all that kind of crap. I stuck up for you when that Liberty University scandal happened, and you apparently were alleged to be part of the Pull Boy scandal with the Falwells. I stuck up for you.
You shouldn't have given up. You should have followed John Cena's tracks and his motto and just
I hate you.
never give up.
I hate you. Joey, we're in Foz Island again. We're out there in Fight Island. What do you got for us this week in the UFC?
Ultimate Fight Night 179. Wow, man. It's just, they're adding up. Ultimate Fight Night 179. Marlon Moraes and Corey Sandhagen headlined the main event. Sandhagen, if you remember, he fought Aljamain Sterling. He got beat. Money piled in on Sandhagen in that bout. Sterling subbed him in the first round quickly. Sterling's probably the #1 contender now. So this is supposed to be a bounce back fight for Sandhagen. But Marlon Moraes, this kid is good, man. He rattled off since he fought in the World Series of Fighting, went to the UFC, rattled off like 4 wins, got in a good spot to fight Henry Cejudo, lost to Cejudo, Henry Cejudo, Mexican-American. He lost to Cejudo, came back, and now he's in a spot where, he opened a favorite. He opened $1.35. Corey Sandhagen now is favored in this fight. I don't see it. I see Moraes is training at American Top Team. Edson Barbosa, who's the co-main, is also training at American Top Team. I think that Barbosa, I think he's priced a little high right now. He's like -260. I could see the Finnish kid, Makwan Amirkhani beating him. But, staying away from that, like this card, he's got 13 fights on it. And this undercard, a lot of guys that people don't know about. There's only like 5 Americans on this card, right now. Who knows who's going to test positive, who's not. But for a card that, for these venues usually having a lot of late replacements, nobody's being late replaced right now, not week of anyway. On the undercard, Tom Breeze fighter from England. He's making a comeback. He was all the rage. I mean, he was the thing, but he just never really panned out in the UFC. Lost a bout. Now he's coming back. Lost his last bout, got knocked out. He's coming back against a Canadian. You know how I feel about Canadians, but this Canadian is 8-0, and he's, you know what? This is a spot where I think this kid might be able to pull an upset. You don't want to get caught speeding on Tom Breeze here. Look, this Canadian kid's got 8 fights. He's 8-0. 6 of his fights have ended in the first round. So while I think he can win, what I do like a lot is the under in this fight. Total was priced about 2.5 over, minus 150. You can go under 2.5 plus money. I think that gets the money. And outside of the octagon, outside of Dubai, back to the fight capital of the world, not Philadelphia, not New York City, Las Vegas, Nevada. Vasily Lomachenko and Teofimo Lopez. Finally, this fight is going to happen.
And who do you got winning?
No excitement, PG?
Hey,
give us a pick.
I think it's an easy fight for Lomachenko. I don't know. I think.
Hey, Joey,
you know,
I just want to ask, what was that number again? 35-9?
Which number?
Your record? What's the record?
38-15.
38-15. That's sick. That is an amazing, amazing number. I'm not a big gambler, but I've been doing it for ages. That is a gargantuan percentage win. I wanted to ask you, what do you think that you do differently to be so successful that others doesn't do? Is it a matter of time? Is it a matter of study? What's the difference?
Well, I've been doing this. I mean, before I started going on these shows and things, I was an odds maker offshore. I started offshore. I went to Costa Rica in 1999, worked in Costa Rica, Curacao, Jamaica, Montreal, Panama, where else? Antigua. But what I think, I think I outworked everybody in the early years. And once I did that, I started seeing things different. It sounds weird when I just say, well, I see things different to people, but I see things like I think I understand the plight of the fighter pretty well. Like I know what it's like to get hit. I know what it's like to lose. I know what it's like to be broke. I know what it's like to struggle. And a lot of these fighters go through that. And I also know what it's like to have, thousands of fans out there from my wrestling background and fighting background. I get it. I see things different. And a lot of guys will see, value and talk about value. And I bet on guys I think can win. I get it that, you could say, well, I'm betting value, but I'm about winners. You know what I mean? And I just, in the end, I just have to have more winners than losers. And it seems to be working out.
I just paid the coach, Gary. I just paid the coach.
That works.
Well,
too.
you know what? It's okay, Godfather, because you consider you consider. Yeah, I'm still here. Damn it! You consider yourself.
I thought you left, Coach. I'm sorry.
No. I haven't left yet. I'm telling you this right now. This is what
Only the UFC, Coach.
Godfather, you think you're this boxing expert? Joey, you're talking about a boxing fight that's coming up in Vegas. You won't even give us a pick on. Within the next 2 weeks. I'm not even going to tell you what it is. Within the next 2 weeks, you'll have a guy on this show who's the voice of a major network boxing promotion. And I'm not going to tell you what this is.
Teaser.
A little teaser for all you boxing aficionados. Maybe you should have kept yourselves down for the next 2 to 3 weeks. That's all I'm going to say. That's all I'm going to say.
You see what happens here, Coach?
What's that, Joey?
No, Coach opts out from our show on Saturday, our pre-fight show, goes to a John Cena Never Give Up seminar. He's coming back pissing vinegar, throwing all these fastballs at us.
Listen,
you need to go to my trash talking seminar to get it right. That's what you need to take is my trash talking seminar.
Well,
Coach, I'm going to respect your opinion on your boxing aficionado, whatever you want to call him. But let me just tell you one thing. I've been fighting since the age of 10. I've been in Tyson's camp. I've been numerous world champions camp. I've trained world champions. I've made a lot of money betting on boxing. And I would love to debate whoever you're bringing on about every and any aspect of the boxing business, the boxing market, and anything else he wants to talk about boxing.
Okay. I was actually getting ready to give you a compliment because
I was going to say I'm going to start leaning on you for your boxing knowledge because of what we have coming down to the pike in the next 3 weeks. But again, I'm going to leave that until it's been announced. And then we'll announce it right here on the show.
On the show, Coach. I'll bury him.
It won't be a scrub. It won't be a scrub. It will not be a scrub.
You better bring some firepower.
Well, hey, don't tease unless I can deliver.
Let's go to some firepower then. And don't forget the UFC 1 hour before the prelim show. Mr. Joey Odessa and Gary Kaltbaum, you asked. Joey Odessa made the first lines for the very first UFC. Been a legend ever since. We have him on the 1 hour before the prelim shows. But let's go right now. Forget the prelims to the main event. Party out of the city of brotherly love. It is the Philly Godfather with a 2% upgraded NFL pick. Been waiting the whole show for this. Philly Godfather, what is it?
You guys are going to think I'm nuts, but let's go to game 451, 452 on your sports betting screen. This line originally opened up with the Falcons being 3.5-point favorites. And we've seen about a 2.5 dip in the mark, 2.5-point dip in the market. Right now, I've seen it as low as -1. And I get it. I mean, after losing to Green Bay on Monday night and watching Matt Ryan, he slammed his helmet down on the ground in disgust towards the end of the game. And a lot of sharp bettors are leaving this team for dead at 0-4 and have officially put the Falcons on their do not bet list. And you can't blame them this week. I mean, the public's all over Carolina. There's some sharp syndicates on the Panthers as well. The Panthers have exceeded all expectations after the first 4 games of this season. If you remember, in the beginning of the year, Vegas implemented, I think their season win total had only 5 wins, and they've already picked up 2. And if you look at that first game on the season against the Raiders, they were in that game. They almost covered the spread, and they almost won that game. Then in week 2 against Tampa Bay, if they don't turn the ball over 4 times and lose a turnover battle, that 31-17 lopsided win might have been a little bit closer. Then they come back and they beat the Chargers, and they beat Arizona last week. So on paper, this Carolina team look pretty tough to beat. But if we look at both teams' metrics, the Falcons rank better in the trenches, offensive line, defensive line, and have played the much tougher schedule. If I'm not mistaken, I think Carolina's pass rush ranks 31st in the NFL. They only have 3 sacks on the year. So you definitely got to get pressure on Matt Ryan to beat this Falcons team. And if you look at Atlanta's opponents this year, they have a combined 12-4 record, a 75% win percentage. Okay, while the Panthers' opponents, on the other hand, are 8-8 straight up, and they've only faced one team in the top 10 in overall team efficiency, which is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who, by the way, I have a 50-1 ticket on to win it all and plus 700 to win a division. I'm not trying to brag, but we can keep going through the numbers. We can keep going through the numbers here. And on offense, the Falcons are averaging 6.2 yards per play, while I think they're a little slightly better than Carolina's at 6.1 on the road. I like the Falcons here. A lot of people are calling me nuts. The market's going against me, and that's never a good thing. But, I mean, when you look at the teams with the best yards per play metric in the NFL, it's the Packers number 1, the Seahawks number 2, the Cowboys number 3. And if you look at all those 3 quarterbacks, Russell Wilson, Dak Prescott, and the great one, Aaron Rodgers, I think they're ranked in the top 5 or top 6 this year in QBR and every other quarterback metric you can think of. This is a very hungry team. This is a wounded team. They started off 0-4. They're starving for a victory. So you can throw all those metrics, you can throw all those statistics out the window. The Atlanta Falcons are going to win this game. They're going to cover the spread, 1 or 2 points. Anything under that key number of 3. I love the Falcons here. You saw what the Eagles did to the 49ers Sunday night. You can throw away all those metrics. There was sharp money on the 49ers. They laid 6.5. They laid 7. The game went up to as high as -10. And that didn't make a difference, man. This Atlanta Falcons team is a lot better than they look, than their 0-4 record. And in the last 5 years, I think there's only been 7 teams that started off the season 0-5, and 6 of those 7 teams were really bad. And this Atlanta Falcons team isn't a bad team. They get their first win of the season this week against a very good Carolina Panthers team. And like Matt from the College Kids said, expect a shootout here.
Did you say most of the money is? Did you say most of the money is going towards Carolina? Did you say that?
Yeah, right now I think about almost 70% of all the tickets punched. I talked to guys in Vegas. It's still early in the market. Most of the bets come on game day, but as of right now, almost 70% of all the tickets are on Carolina and Vegas and Atlantic City and offshore. Some of the sharper offshore betting houses like Pinnacle, Betcris, even guys at BetOnline are telling me Everyone's betting the Panthers. Everyone's leaving this Atlanta Falcons team for dead at 0-4. And that's when I like to jump in the market on a team that I think, still has a lot to play for. I think they got a lot of pride. A lot of people told me they think this team quit on the season, and I'm not one of them, man. I like the Falcons this week.
Well, last year in the college football season, you said jump on LSU with some ridiculous number. I can't remember what it was at the time to win the national championship. We did, and we cashed that huge future that we had bet on the LSU Tigers, and now you got a 2% bet on the Atlanta Falcons. Coach, what happens when there's a 2% bet? What do?
We fire!
We fire
all day,
right, that's what we
every
do.
day.
Coach, let me ask you a question. How does our 33-1 ticket on the Buffalo Bills look so far this season?
Looks pretty good until you have to go through Arrowhead, but hey, we don't have to talk about Arrowhead. We can talk about how good you guys are looking and how good the ticket's looking. I can't talk about
They
it.
had a problem. Wait, time
That's
out.
fantastic.
They had a problem against the Patriots with Brian Hoyer. They were lucky Hoyer threw a couple of interceptions. That game was a lot closer than what the final score indicated. You're talking about a Buffalo Bills team who's banged up on defense. They start off the season 4-0. Your Kansas City Chiefs are in trouble against the Bills. Week 6.
Oh. Well, we're
I
almost.
will go head up. No points with you on week 6.
Philly,
Let's go.
I was a little mistaken in our pre-show. We were talking before. Did you have a total for us as well, or it was just the 2% Atlanta Falcons?
Let's go to Tampa Bay Thursday tonight. I guess we're recording Wednesday tonight. Yeah, this Tampa Bay team, short week. They got a plethora of injuries. There's a ton of guys that are banged up on this team on the offensive and defensive side. I tweeted it out a few days ago. This line opened up, I think it was 3.5, went to as high as 6. I said, wake me up when this line gets to 6. I sent that tweet out on Twitter, and then that's when I'm going to fire on the home dog here. I took the Bears plus 6. As soon as I took it, as soon as it got to 6, you saw that line plummet down to 3.5 even money, and it might close 3. So we're getting the best of the number. We're getting the best of the market. We're ahead of the curve. And if Jason Pierre-Paul plays this week, I also like the under 45. He brings a lot of pressure on this Tampa Bay team that's ranked in the top 5 in the adjusted sack rate this season. One of the best defenses in football. I think they're number 2. The Bears are number 7. If you look at the injuries for Tampa Bay here, it's never easy going into Soldier Field and getting a victory. But when you go in banged up, it makes it even harder. Evans is out on offense. Fournette, Godwin, Gronk, Howard, Scotty Miller, they're all banged up this week. Some of them might play, some might not, but they're definitely not going to be 100%. Like I said, if Jason Pierre-Paul doesn't play on the defensive side, it's going to make it even harder for Tampa Bay to, cover that closing Vegas number. At plus 6, I love the Bears. It's down to 3.5. It's a little shady right there. If it gets above 4 again, you can probably cash a ticket on the Bears plus 4 or better. I took them at plus 6. If you follow me on Twitter, you took them as well. And like I said, if Pierre-Paul plays, I like the under 45 as well.
And the good thing about COVID this year was there was not necessarily a July 4th celebration, so there were no fireworks for Jason Pierre.
No crap.
And I know we got to go, but it's a good thing that Follow the Action or myself does not follow Godfather on Twitter anymore, so I didn't have to make that bet on the Bears. So I'm happy, and the show's happy. Thank goodness we don't follow the Godfather on Twitter. Sorry, Johnny. Go ahead. Wrap this thing up.
We're going to wrap this thing up. That is Follow the Action as always. And as always we do, we're going to ask our group, our panel, what's the one thing you're looking forward to this week in sports? And so, Coach, since you're the man that unfollowed the Philly Godfather himself, I'm going to start with you. Coach,
That's fine.
What are you looking forward to this week in sports specifically?
I'm looking forward to being in the mountains where I can't get any reception at a baseball tournament, so I don't have to listen to you dumbasses on a UFC pre-show try to utilize me to win everybody else's money. That's what I'm looking forward to.
Coach, words hurt. Words hurt. That's just not nice. Just not nice. Let's go to a gentleman. Mr. 8-Ball, what are you looking forward to this week most, the world in sports?
Looking forward to the Browns-Colts game so we can cash another ticket.
And Matt, of the college kids, what are you looking forward to most this week in sports?
I'm looking forward to the shootout in Atlanta. I'm going to be rooting for Atlanta because we have Atlanta as well, just like PGF. We love it, and we're rooting for that over.
And Mr. You should change your T-shirt because that really finds it offensive. It's time. It's time. It's bagel time. Odessa, what are you looking forward to this week in sports?
Looking forward to Marlon Moraes proving all the doubters wrong that pushed that number over to Sandhagen a favorite. I'm looking for quick finishes on this undercard. Teofimo Lopez against Lomachenko as a fan, even though I think Lomachenko wins. And I didn't really say it, but looking forward to the Miami Hurricanes at 7:30 on Saturday. I'm going to have 2 TVs going, 3 TVs going, and it's going to be on one of them. They're going into Clemson. I'm pumped up for that game. The fan in me, the old Jets fan, the new Miami Hurricane fan, will say, is looking forward to seeing the Hurricanes play.
All right, and you bet on the Jets. You bet on the Hurricanes against Clemson?
Get a hunch, bet a bunch. I think I will.
And Mr. Gary Kaltbaum, what this week? I know you're a huge sports fan. What in sports this week are you looking forward to?
Oh, it's simple. At 8 p.m. Sunday night, I want to see Jerry Jones' face go from this to this when the Giants kick their ass, go 1-4, and send Cowboys to 1-4, which should have been 0-5.
Wow, that hurt. That hurt. I wasn't
Happy,
expecting
John.
that. The problem is we have 3 guys from the NFC East. I'm here in Washington, D.C. The only team I can really root for is the Homestead Grays that Josh Gibson used to play for, because I dang sure ain't rooting for the Washington football team. Philly Godfather from Philadelphia. What are you looking forward to this week?
I'm looking forward to one of these professional football teams in Texas to finally cover the spread. They're combined 0-8 against the market, against the closest Vegas number. And hopefully, I mean, the Cowboys are big favorites with 9.5. Hopefully they can cover the spread. Or maybe the Texans, who are laying 6 against a Jacksonville team that was expected to win only 4.5 games this year. Hopefully one of these 2 teams can cover the spread, and people in Texas can start making money again. I mean, come on, guys.
You know, Gary Kaltbaum, you and I shared a great coach a while back, Tom Landry. A great coach was there with, in fact, him and Lombardi were at the Giants at one time together, right? And then Landry came to Dallas, and now we share Jason Garrett, who actually is a friend of mine. I played with him in the World League, and you're probably not as happy about that coach sharing as you are Landry.
No. It's a high school offense. And you know, I'm thinking their quarterback, let's go 0-16 and get Trevor Lawrence next year. That's the way I'm looking at it. By the way, one other thing about this weekend, Coach, I hope your son or sons have a great weekend with their games. That's the most important weekend.
Thank you very much.
I also hope you had reception so you can hear us talking about you on our prelim show.
I will. In fact, he's got practice right now, so
well, Coach, we're wrapping up right now. No, you don't have to. Don't leave, Coach. Not till we're done.
I'm looking to bet the Clemson-Miami game, Coach. Who do you like?
Love the Hurricanes.
Oh, God.
Me too. Me too. Me too.
Damn it. From a legend, the Philly Godfather, from the greatest combat sports handicapper in the world, Mr. Joey Odessa, for the financial expert, and my good friend Gary Kaltbaum, for the coach, Jonathan Coachman, for Matt of the College Kids, and the 8 Ball, my favorite guy. This is Follow the Action. Thank you very much for joining us. Join us this week on the UFC prelim show 1 hour before the prelims, and you get to see Mr. Joey Odessa some more, hopefully in a different shirt. Thanks for joining us.